everyone, Paul ISM, walking to part 4 of our Fujimi 112 Nissan Skyline R32 GTR. So we're continuing on with the engine today. I did think we'd finished with it in the last video, but looking at it, I thought there's more detail to add there, and there's room for improvements on some of the things we've done, so why not do it? So this entire video is on the engine bay again. I apologise if that's going to be like, oh no, but it is. With some scratch building, completely raw materials, spare parts. Yeah, we add a little bit more detail to the engine. So now what's to chat about today, so let's jump straight in and have a look where we're going to. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click the little bell notifications, get notified of all our latest videos. Click the like button and leave a comment. I do read and reply to all the comments and appreciate everybody that takes the time to leave a comment on the channel. And of course, if you scroll up in the description, there's a link to a big long list of all the items I use in my videos. So if you see anything, you should be able to find it in there. Okay, as I already said, we're going to add a bit more detail to the engine bay. We added some in the last part, and this entire part is dedicated to this as well. So making up a small wiring connector harness here, we're going to add some wire into the mass airflow sensor. So exactly the same as we did last time. We've got a bit of cable, we've stripped the end, pushed it in place and the end of the resin electrical connector, glue it in place, job done. Repeat for the other side, twist it together, and we've got a little mini wiring harness, as we can see here. So like I say, we're going to add this to the mass airflow sensor. That is the plan. And hopefully, yeah, add a bit more detail. The engine bay is looking good, but I think we can definitely do better. So we've got what I'm told is called the hot pipe. We've got some Loctite Perfect Pen CA glue. Just going to pop that hose section on. Make sure we're all glued and ready to go. Quite tricky to line this lot up, but you can see our little bit of wiring there on the airflow sensor. So we're going to pop this piece in here. Now, because I've altered my turbos, this doesn't fit exactly as it should on the original kit. So I did glue this in place originally, then took it off and found I had to kind of finagle it in place, if that's a word. But there we go. As you can see, we've lined it up. There's a little bit of a gap between the turbo and the pipe. We'll fix that later on. But for the most part, it is done. Now our battery. So we've got battery terminals on the battery itself, but we've got no connectors. So thinking outside the box, which we do a lot of today, a lot of scratch building and repurposing parts. So we've got to find some appropriate positive cable and negative cable, and we're going to use the same wiring connectors, but for a slightly different purpose. So we've got a nice fine drill bit. This is the Tamiya pin vise and some of our very fine drill bits. It's not the actual set shown on screen. It's from the same company. It's just a finer set. I'm just going to try and drill into the back of this for the slightly bigger cable and try and drill it in the center of the part as well. Then we can pop our battery cable in there, and then we'll cut off the top of our terminal on the battery and put this in place like a connector. So a dab of Loctite in the back, push it home, glue it in place, give it a second, let CA glue grip it, and then we can cut it flush with our snips. So these snips here were sent to me by good buddy Andy, all the way from Florida. They're great for cutting cable, really good. Don't use your Tamiya cutters for cutting wires, you'll destroy them in seconds. So we've got that glued in place, the wiring's on, we've cut the top of the terminal, we've got some Tamiya LP, I think it's LP7 red. Been a bit lazy using a micro brush just for speed, because it says clean the brush once we're done. I'll often do this when there's just one or two little pieces to paint. It's quicker and easier than cleaning a whole brush. So once that's dried, we'll put it to one side for a bit. And then on the other one, we'll paint that silver. These are our positive and negative connections. And then we can CA glue them in place once we're happy. So again, make sure you use the right cutters. I'm just going to put a dab of CA glue where the original terminals were. Doesn't need a lot, it's a nice thick CA glue. And we're just going to carefully line it up. Let the CA glue grab it, and there we go. There's our positive connection on. Do the same with the negative. Again, we're using our Temi decal tweezers, which are often used for parts like this because the flat edge actually grips the parts quite a bit better. And there we go. Finally, there is a sticker for the fuse box. Again, I am disappointed that some of these are stickers. I would much rather have decals, but it is what it is. It's better than not having them, I suppose. So it's a case of lining it all up without knocking all your bits and bobs off. Like so, yeah. Quite tricky, as you can see, to line it all up and hold it. Don't know what's going on with me. I'm having a bit of trouble here today. But there we go. Get it lined up. Get it roughly where you want it. And then push it fully home. Grab a cotton bud. And burnish it down. Make sure it's nice and smooth. And there we go. There's our battery, terminals and fuse box decal all in place. Now, we've got one of the Edding paint marker pens here. Alan Parker put me onto these, and these are fantastic. I spent about £70 on a whole range of these in different colours, and they are brilliant. It's proper paint. It does cover really, really well. It's not just a marker pen, it actually is paint. And we're just using it to add a bit of gloss detail to the top of the battery. I did originally contemplate painting these in silver. Tried it, it didn't look good. But these added a bit more detail, and we did the brace over the top as well. So it's a nice gloss black paint. It is, like I say, paint. It takes a while to dry, so I'm guessing it's enamel based. But it's good for detailing apart. To do various size nibs, various colours. The metallics are phenomenal. So yeah, we hopefully see these used quite a lot over the next few builds. And there we go. We've got a little bit of excess silver paint to remove, which we'll get with some Santador or Vallejo airbrush cleaner in a little bit. But for the most part, that is our battery done. Now, we've got a centre to go on the intake manifold here. We're going to use one of the resin electrical connectors from Top Studio or Studio 27. I think they both make them. Just looking at it for an appropriate size one. Which we've got, then we'll drill a little pilot hole to begin with. So we drill in straight, then we angle it back. Take the drill bit out and angle it. Don't angle the drill bit where it's in it, you'll snap it. And then go in at our angle. And then we'll grab a drill bit of the appropriate size for the part. Which we're using some of these printed circuit board drill bits. Use these by hand because they're nice and sharp. And make it just big enough for this to slot in. And there we go. That'll do us nicely. So paint that up black. Bit of Vallejo model colour black. A dab of CA glue. And we can pop it in place. Make sure we line it up the way we want it. And there we are. Spot on. Cut this to the right length. And then add a little bit of cable underneath. This is just not going anywhere, just for visual interest. I have no idea what it could be. A little bit of hose we'll add as well. Just a few random cables going underneath and over and through. Like I said, I could have gone to so much more detail on this thing. But 2 video parts, about a week's worth of work. I think it's plenty. It's plenty. Visually at the end it looks okay to me. So I'm just randomly putting bits of hose and wire here and there. We're cutting it to shape, trimming it, gluing it in place. I'm not making any, saying this is real parts or real wiring. I'm literally adding it for visual interest. You could really go to town on this and fully wire it up, that is for sure. For me, no. I'm just going to do some simple upgrades, completely scratch builds, my own parts. There's no detail upset with this engine at all, which is a real shame that nobody's done it. There'd definitely be a market for it because the kit engine bay is rather sparse. And there we go, just gluing in random bits of wire, shaping them around the edge to get them out of the way. Little dab of CA glue, hold them in place. And there we go. Loctite Perfect Pen Cier Glue is a nice thick gel. Works really well. It's a favourite of mine. I've been using it for quite some time now. And it's definitely good for grabbing parts that you want. Just either make sure you get plenty of purchase on, or something you'd like to be able to move around a little bit. Being a gel, it does grab things a little bit quicker, but also it slows down the drying a touch more too. Once you've got it done, just cut those flush. And there we are. Now, try to make the throttle cable. So again, I could have gone the whole hog. I made all the throttle assembly, but now I thought I'd make a very simple cable using another electrical connector, bit of heat shrink, bit of wire, and just a little bit of imagination. So we cut that to size, slide it over the wire, then slide it over the resin part, give it a little bit of heat, and it'll make a very, very makeshift throttle cable. Like I said, it's a real shame no company makes a detail upset for this engine bay. Studio Rossi does some of the more important bits outside, the wheels, the brakes, interior and what have you, but nothing for the engine bay. And the kit is quite sparse without any scratch building in. It's a very lacking engine bay, so there's definitely not necessarily a market, but there's a definite need for it. And it is a real shame nobody offers it, but with a bit of scratch building, some imagination, repurposing the parts, I guess it's pretty easy to, make the most of the kit and get a little bit more visual interest out of it. So there we go, that's all made up. I'm just weighing up a way of mounting this. I'm checking some of the connectors, they are too thin. So instead, we go to a little bit of plastruct, drill a hole through it, slide it through, and this can be our bracket. And then we'll glue it in place. Now, I did glue it in place, and I moved it later on. After speaking to a couple of friends, I was informed it was probably further over to the middle. So I moved it over, and it looked a lot better. Bit of brush paint from a low model colour, just a silver we use. And a Tamiya fine brush. I don't airbrush everything, and it is nice to brush paint from time to time. As long as you're confident you can get a nice finish, there's no reason not to at all. And there we go, that's that bit done. So as you can see, I glued it to the left hand side. Later on, I popped it back off really easily and just moved it to the centre of that part. Quite tricky to get in. Some of these materials like to glue themselves to each other easier than others. I guarantee you stick your skin to something with Cier Glue on, it'll stick instantly. But that very important part that you need to stick just won't. It just will not. And there we go, some basic assembly done there. And this just friction fits in. If it's a bit tight, remove a bit of material with a knife. But that fits in there quite nice. Nice and neat. And then we'll just pop the wire over the top of the wheel arch and just tuck it down the back. Under everything else. And there we go. Quick, simple and easy. Doesn't look too bad. Definitely adds a bit of visual interest. Now we've got a radiator pipe, which is one of the kit plastic parts. We will be adding some clips to these parts later on. We've got some photo etch 12 scale bands to put on. They're not meant for cars, they're meant for bikes, so they're a bit of a stretch to get some of them to fit, but they actually did. Then we've got our battery and fuse box, which is a little bit tricky to get in place. Our lovely decal on the front can't be seen. It's a real shame, but it's the old adage, you know it's there. So that is the important bit, I guess. So line it up, get the hole lined up. It's a bit tricky to do. We've also got a wash to add to that engine, but we'll do all that when we do all the running gear. Get our screwdriver and the appropriate screw. Screw it in place, and there we go. Now, on the kit, the battery's a lot further forward than it is on the real car. So it does leave a bit of space at the back, which we'll take care of later. We've got 2 to 4.5mm RP punch set. And we're going to punch out a little bit of clear plastic. This is over a bit of a blister pack from Cier Glue. I just wanted some clear plastic to add to that screen wash bottle. To add as the cap, the filler cap for it. Now, we did paint up the screen wash and one of the other parts. I was never happy with the screen wash. The coolant one looked really good. The screen wash one, I just couldn't get it to look right, so I decided to just strip it and leave it as the bare white plastic with this clear cap on the top, and I think it looked a lot better. So while you see me now gluing this on with the screen wash blue in the background, I decided later to remove it, a little bit of leveling thinner, brushed it over, wiped it off, and we were back to the bare plastic. I think it looks better. I think it's a bit better. Bit of UV glue, which had got a little bit green where it had been seeping out the end. But I think a little bit of green around the cap, probably a little bit more realism to what the real car would be like. So we pop it in place, line it all up, grab our UV pen, get the light on it, cure it, and there we go. So again, that's a little bit of visual interest, and once we got rid of the blue, it looked a lot better as a plain white piece. And there we go, that's that. So, photo etch clamps. Now these are clamps from bikes, so it's hit and miss whether they fit. I've enrolled them on a UMP sander. I'll show you how I do it in a minute. We've got our Zuron PE cutters. This is a random bit of fret because I needed a big one for the intercooler, and this is the step roller from RP Tools. It's a handy tool, very good. You can use micro brushes, you can see there. So it's the step roller tool, as you can see. I'm just using that to form the shape. Let's get it around the edge. So we pulled it tight, got our tweezers just to pull it tight and get it round. What we kind of want is it to be a little bit smaller than the part we're going to put it on, so that when it goes around it grips onto it as well. That makes gluing it in place a lot easier. There we go, a little dab of shea glue on top. Grab it from the top of the tweezers, push one edge over till it slides over, then push the other, and hopefully the grip of the PE will grab where it's needed, like so. A bit out of shot, I do apologise. And just push it home, and there we go, job done. So we just repeat that for all the other parts everywhere we can. We had a bit of a clamp or a clip, just had a little bit of visual interest, and it did look the part. So if you didn't have these clamps, you could use photo etch fret, just cut thin slivers off, bare metal foil. At a very medium, you could use masking tape painted or wire, anything at all to interpret the clamps. But I was lucky to have these from my bike building days, and yeah, they don't look too bad. They're not perfect, but they do add a bit of visual interest, and it does make it look a bit better. So with all the hose clamps added, it definitely adds a bit more visual interest to the engine. Like I say, many multitude of ways of doing it. This is the way I chose to do it. They may not be the correct clamps, but the way I've done it, and that is it really. So another bit of detail added there, which doesn't look too bad. Definitely looks better than, well, if they weren't there, that's for sure. So suspension turret tops now. Now I've got this old tree off a bike. I use my JLC razor saw to cut the very top of them off, sand them flush, and then we're going to glue those in place on the inside. So these JLC razor saws are absolutely fantastic. Very, very precise. Just be careful, keep an eye on what you're doing. Try and keep the cut as straight as possible, because it says a lot of cleanup in a minute, but it's a case of just taking your time, going through, getting one off, keep it to one side safe, because it's very, very easy to lose parts. If you didn't have something like this, you could always use some cylindrical rod, 2 different sizes, cut 2 little slivers off, glue them together, and that would make a pretty good detail set, but this looked a lot better to me. So this is the way we did it. So yeah, repurposing old parts, which is all part of the fun of scratch building, in my opinion. Like I say, let the Radiator do its work. Don't lose the parts. Now we've got some of the Tamiya grip tweezers here. So these are angled, as you can see there in the picture. And they're made to hold parts like this, cylindrical, so you can sand them. And we're going to sand this flush and true. Make sure we keep it nice and straight. And there we go. And then we can add a little dab of CA glue to the top of the suspension and pop them in place once they've been painted up. So again, we've got the Vallejo Silver, one of Tamiya's HF brushes. A couple of light coats. Let those dry. Let's see, we're accumulating more and more tools on the bench. The workspace is getting smaller and smaller, as it always does. But a dab of CA glue in place on each side, and then we can grab our freshly painted parts and pop them in the center. Now, what we also did here, which I'm not going to show because we take it off, was drill into the top of the turret and add the mounting nuts and bolts, well, studs and nuts. After doing that and thinking about it overnight, I then decided, no, let's do something a little bit better than that. So they were taken back off. So there's no point in really showing it now. But there we go. There's our inner strut tops, as you can see. Again, adds a little bit of interest. We'll pop a wash on those later. Then, like I say, we grab our drill bits and we drill into the top of the suspension mount itself using our Tamiya pin vise and RS drills. Like I say, I had two resin little pieces we're going to add on each side to simulate the nuts and studs. But the next day, I thought, let's do something a little bit better. So we'll stop that there, and we'll go to the next day. We'll get our displaced circle cutter out, and we're going to start cutting some bits. So what we're going to make, what could go on top of there? Well, it's got to be a strut brace, hasn't it? So I used various pictures online to get a few references, and then thought about the best way of doing it, and this is the way I came up with. So we're making sure our displaced circle cutter is all properly assembled. The blade is all home fully. We're just popping it in place, and we're test fitting at the minute. But to be honest, some of the test pieces turned out to be pretty perfect anyway. So just gently, multiple rotations till we cut through. It's thicker than paper, so it does take a bit more to cut through. But just let it do its work, and it will. See, round and round and round we go. Making sure that that's fully home. And eventually, ta-da! It pops off. And there we go. We've got a perfect cylindrical piece. Now, in an ideal world, I would use the circle cutter again to cut through. But it's very hard to get them lined up. So we're using our RP punch here. Now we've got the 4.5mm. Sadly, we need at least a 6mm hole. So we're going to have to widen this up. And there's a few various methods. But you can see there the punch doing its job well. We've got a reamer. Now I've had this that long. I have no idea where it's from, who made it, whatever. So I can't get a product picture. But it's just a standard plastic reamer. And we're going to ream that out. This goes to about 5mm. Still not big enough. So we've got our Suji Burrito half moon file. Or half round file. We'll open that up. And just keep gently going round and round and round till we get it big enough for two of them to slot over those suspension turrets. Once cut to size, we'll put them on top of the suspension mounts. And then we'll make our cross member piece here now. Now, I have tons of Plastruct, and I mean every shape, size, and everything. So I picked a suitable piece. We're going to do two very simple bends in it. As you can see there, just very slight degree bends, about 20mm from each end we did. I'm just going to line it up. Plastruct is basically the same as Evergreen, just a different brand. I bought tons of it years ago in a job lot, very, very cheaply. And I have a lot of it, really do. So using UMP 240 sander now, we're going to angle the edges to give us a nice flat edge to glue in place over those round parts we cut off. So just work at that until we get two nice equal parts. So a little bit of careful sanding is needed. Nothing too tricky. Just make sure we get the angle, because that's what we want. Nice, smooth, flat angle. And then we're going to round off the edge so we lose the sharp edge and make it a rounded bar. As you can see, we've added a very slight angle. Literally, I've put the tweezers at the point I want to bend it and just bent it ever so slightly. It's very manipulable, so it can take a bit of punishment. But I just wanted ever such a slight bend, because that's what all the strut braces showed online that I saw. And then we'll just line it up like so. And then we'll come in and add a little dab of Tamiya Extra Thin. Like so, just to get some purchase on it. Same on the other side. Get it all lined up properly. And then we can get the glue out of the way. Safest thing to do, put the lid on the glue. Let that dry, and then we'll take it off. Put it flat, and make sure we get it all glued in place, all lined up properly. So straighten these up a touch. Add a touch more glue. Like so. And then just checking it's all symmetrical. Looks good to me. Just maybe a little tweak over. There we go. Once we're done, add a touch more glue. Then we can leave that to dry for a little bit. Still a few more bits and bobs to add to this. So we're going to add the adjustment bolt. So we've just got a bit of round plastroked rod. I'm just going to hit it with Tamiya Extra Thin, and then we'll cut it off. Extra Thin, my mix with EML Plasti Weld sets this stuff really fast. As you can see, we've added two nut details at the top. They are the pieces I had originally. They are resin parts off a bike. I have no idea what they were, but they were absolutely perfect, like little resin bolt heads, and yeah, with studs with nuts on, should we say. So they added to the part, and then we got some PE detail parts again off a bike. I couldn't tell you what they are. They're like bolt heads, and we're just going to add a little bit of detail to the edge to make it look like the metal work that's at the edge. So a little dab of CA glue, drop it in place, repeat that for all four corners. And there we go. Put one this side, give a little push home with the tweezers. A bit out of focus, do apologise, a little bit zoomed in too far. And there we go. I'm happy with that, it's looking good. One last part to go on. There we go. For a scratch built strut brace, I don't think it looks that bad. So we mounted it on a lollipop stick. We primed it in UMP black primer. And we've got some Tamiya LP70 gloss aluminium, a little bit of lacquer thinner from Tamiya, mixed up with the Badger paint mixer. And we're going to spray this through the 2.2mm Apex 18 psi, 2 or 3 light coats, and get a nice gloss, semi-gloss metallic finish to it. So make sure everything's out of the way. The light's in the way a little bit, I do apologise. A lot of moving around going on in here lately. And occasionally I do forget to check the camera. Get that used to doing things. And I'm filming so much lately that it just kind of, all mould into one session. And then you look and think, oh, no, I didn't get it. But you can see me spraying half of it. And I'm just putting some light coats on. The same way I spray all the LPs. Just build it up. So we'll put a coat on there, quite a decent coat. Let that dry for 5 minutes. Put another coat on it, like so. And there we go. That will do is we'll let that sit and dry for a bit. Oh, give it another quick go over. And then we'll let it sit and dry for a bit. And then we can come back and attach it to the car. So a couple of dabs of CA glue from our Loctite Super Glue Perfect pen. Just where we're going to get it. And we're going to line up one side first. Like so. It looks really good, this. I'm very happy how this has turned out. So we line it up. Push it down with our clean end of our cocktail stick. Make sure it's as straight as possible. We were a little bit off here, but it didn't really make any difference. There we go. Fix that problem now. Just hold it for a few seconds. Let the CA glue do its work. And then we'll slightly lift the other side, put a couple of dabs of CA glue in, push it down with the clean end of the cocktail stick again. And there we go, glued in place. Brilliant, very happy with that. Get a cotton bud just to wipe up any excess CA glue that may be there. Let that dry, and then we can add a little bit of a wash to all the raised detail with our Tamiya panel line accents black colour. Just let it touch, the capillary action carry it round, and it just add a little bit of depth to it. And I think that's turned out quite well. We'll have a proper close-up look at it a bit later on near the end. But I'm happy with how that's turned out. Not too bad at all. The wash brings out a bit more of the surface detail. And again, all made from scratch, literally. Just from stock styrene products. So very, very happy how this turned out. Adds a bit more detail to the engine bay. And a little bit more visual interest. Now, we were debating the colours. Red was one of them, black was another, and somebody else suggested the luminous yellow decal we did on the wheel, but I think it would have been a bit too much. Now, I'm looking for some Nismo decals, and I knew this kit had some spares in it. So, this isn't a part built kit at all. It's not been reboxed because it's part built at all. But it is, and it will get finished off someday. And I knew there was Nismo decals in here, as you can see. Plenty of them there. So, again, always mental notes of what you've got always does help. And you can always repurpose all decals. So, a little bit of water for about a minute or so. Tamiya decal tweezers. Pop it in place, and there we go. We have a proper Nismo branded aluminium strut brace. And there we are. So we line it up to the middle by eye. Then we'll grab our ruler and measure it. And would you believe I was like a millimetre out from being exactly centre. And I mean, it was literally a millimetre. Very, very small amount. It needed moving over, so I've got a good eye for things like this. It just needed a touch. And there we go. Remove the excess water. Hit it with UMP decal solution. With it being a Tamiya decal, I just went with the normal and then the strong. And there we go. One scratch built strut brace. Now, I made this valve, I think it's a boost solenoid valve, out of plastic, and it looked crap, I'm not going to lie. It looked awful, I wasn't very happy with it at all. So, going through the parts on the Sunday show, that spare parts bin again, I found this. Absolutely no idea where it's from. It's just a spare part on a random sprue, but it looked absolutely perfect for what we needed it for. So we just tidied it up, got all the seams off, drilled a hole in the back, drilled a hole in the side. And we will do the same as we did last time with our two hoses. And this is going to look a lot better than the other part. So this Tamiya pin vise, absolutely fantastic drill. Really do rate this a lot. I've had this for years. It's got a ball raced spinner on the top, so it's nice and smooth to use. Just drill in, so the back and the side. That way we can add our hose detail in there. Same way we've done all the others. So we'll use a central single core wire. Slide the hose over the top. Leave a little bit of the wire exposed to glue it in place. Pretty simple standard procedure for making the wiring and what have you. Cut it to length. Have a look at the length of our hose. Yeah, we'll cut this first. Then we'll have a look at our hose. Cut that to length, slide it over, CA glue it in place, and it's job done. Nice and simple, quick and easy. So the reason for putting the wire in the centre is, number one, it gives you something to locate into the part, and number two, because it's rigid wire, it allows you to shape the hose to form bends and what have you, whereas without it, the hose kind of has a mind of its own. So it is worth doing. It's what the instructions for a lot of Top Studio or Studio 27 sets call for. So we just put a little slot of Seagull on there, slide it home like so, make sure it's fully located in place, and then we'll snip off any excess. Repeat the other side, bend it to shape, like so. And this part we found also has a little mounting point on the back as well. Little bracket already built in, so literally this thing is perfect for the job we need. So just line it up on the car body, making sure we've got these angles right. It's a little bit too big that side, so we'll just shorten it. So you put your tweezers on, bend it to shape, and hey presto, there we go. You can see it just in place to the right of the fuse box, down the left hand side, behind the battery. I drilled a little hole through, stuck it in place, and tucked the hoses underneath next to the battery. And it looks a lot better than it did before. So, a couple of little things. We fixed one problem now, which was that I wasn't happy with. The next one was our brake line clamps at the back. They were all different sizes. They were all damaged because I had a nightmare gluing them in place. So I wanted to do them so they're a little bit more evenly sized and not damaged, because some of the parts are difficult CA glue to the clear parts. They must all be super clear. Doesn't seem to like accepting super glue as much as like 2K or a matte coat, so it did create a bit of damage on the parts last time, and I wanted to redo them because, well, they look a lot better. So we popped them off, made 3 new ones, just glued them in place. Really simple, not much to look at. The JLC razor saw does a nice job of cutting these parts nice and square and smooth and ready to go. So just again, cut the 3 off, get them lined up. We'll pop one of the old ones off and make sure we can get these on. So there you go, one of them's off. This is a brand new one. A little dab of CA glue on the pipes we already did. Pop it on, give it a light push, and there we go. One brand new one, pretty equal size, no damage. We'll repeat that for all the other 3, and we're done. Now, we covered up on the ejection pin marks with a make-believe part on the left-hand side of the engine bay. We use a BMW 635 air filter box, the same part we used to make our window wiper motor. So on the other side, I've used this part, which is some kind of oil or transmission cooler. I've no idea where it came from. Again, it's just a random spare part. Painted in Vallejo model colour black. I'm just going to stick this over that ejector pin mark on the right hand side by the airflow meter, and hide the sin of the ejector pin marks I forgot to remove when building the kit. So it's going to go right behind that air filter box, right in front of that strut brace, right next to the screen wash bottle. You can just see the ejector pin mark showing through. Very ugly. How I missed them, I do not know, but somehow I did. So a little dab of Sago on the back. Line it up. Pop it in place. And it's an imaginary, I don't know, electrical box, radio, sandwich, lunchbox. God only knows what it is. But this is between you and I. And it hides the sin of those ejector pin marks. You can see the other box on the left hand side behind the fuse box. So that is the airflow, that's the air box off a BMW 6 Series. And we use the airflow meter as the window wiper motor. So one part got repurposed twice. I'm just going to pop the body shell on. So you've lined the back up. The front's a little bit tight to go with the intercooler. You have to pull it out without damaging the paint. Like so. I'll show you now. What, you ready? We just pull it out, slot it in, and there we go. There's our engine bay in place. Just have a little look. Mainly, my main concern was, will the bonnet still shut with that strut brace on? And thankfully, it did. So it does still shut. We've still got all the bodywork to work on. It's covered in fingerprints at the minute. All needs flattening and polishing. But with that fitting, that's great news. So we come in close and have a look. Make sure everything's lined up for us. And there we go. There's the engine bay. A lot more detailed than standard. I think it looks a lot better. I'm especially proud of that strut brace. That's a nice bit of scratch building, if I don't say so myself. But we've definitely added a bit more visual interest. It's not perfect. There's a lot more we could add. There really, really is. But overall, I'm happy with that. It looks pretty good. And it will definitely add some interest to the build. So that's where we're at today. That's it. I think for what we've used, which is basically Plastruct, plastic styrene sheet, rod, shapes, etc. Some spare parts at the spare parts bin, and a bit of ingenuity and a bit of thinking outside the box. I don't think it looks too bad, if I'm honest. I'm especially happy with that strut brace. That turned out really well, and it adds a nice bit of detail to the engine bay, and it's nice to see that the bonnet appears, and I say appears, to shut. If it didn't, it wouldn't have been the end of the world, because we could have taken it off to shut the bonnet and put it on when we opened it. So it wasn't a completely lost cause, but it does look as though it will shut, so that's good. I'm calling that engine 90% done. Yeah. We're not going to visit the next part. The next part, we're moving on to probably the running gear and the brakes, and I'm especially looking forward to getting to the brakes, because it's another one of the Studio Rosso detail upsets, and yeah, I think they're going to look quite good once they're done as well. So yeah, that's where we're at today. Engine bay, I reckon it's about 90% done. There's a few bits and bobs I think I could add. Maybe we'll do it further on down the line. They're only small things, but for the most part, I'm happy how it's turned out. It's pretty good. It's a lot better than the sparse engine bay that comes with the kit, because there's a lot missing, and it's begging for an aftermarket set, really. It's still in production, that kit. It's not a cheap kit, but it's readily available, and I think a nice detail upset for that engine bay would do really well. But I guess there's no call for it at the end of the day. But like I say, a bit of scratch building, it can make it look okay. So yeah, like I said, we're back in part 4. I don't know when, because I'm working on this in the GT500. I kind of want to crack on with this and get that running gear done though, because I'm looking forward to getting to those brakes. I kind of want to get to the GT500, but I'm going to be working on the engine. I don't really want to work on an engine again at the minute, so I don't know. But I'm going to edit this video, sit and chill out with the guys in the hangout, and then come Monday morning, start of a new week, I will decide what I'm going to do over the week. So that's it. If you've got any comments or thoughts, pop them down below. Yeah, let me know what you think of the build. I do read every comment. I'm trying to reply to questions as I can, but I do go through and heart and like all the comments that you leave. So do appreciate all the comments. Please leave them. Please don't think, oh, I won't leave a comment because he never answers or doesn't appreciate. I love reading the comments. The feedback I get off you out there spurs me along in the build, so please feel free to leave a comment. Yeah, that's it. Let me know what your thoughts on what I've done today. What could I improve? What could I change? What could I add? Because I'm always open to listening. And yeah, that's it. So there we go, just for you. So yeah, we're back soon. Don't know what with, it'd be either or build, but I fancy doing a review as well, so there might be a review up in the next couple of days as well. So thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure you check out International Scale Model Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com. We can get a lot of the stuff I use in all my videos, and there's a big long list of all the products in the description of this video. Check out my Paul ISM Facebook and Instagram page as well, where all my updates are posted as and when they're done, more regular than the videos. And check out the Live the Bench page and the Off Air Hangout group for all the live show news and the Off Air Hangout links as well. All these links are in the description of the video. And if you've watched us this far, what would you like to see me build after this and the GT500 are done? What would you like to see me build? So there we are. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.